So today it's really about me sharing with you some straightforward information, I would say, on how working with Filipino VAs, what's best to do and what's, good to avoid. So this is really a do's and don'ts, straightforward guide for business owners, property investors. And the whole point is that you've been sold that it's great working with VAs from the Philippines. All that is true, but nobody's telling you what also sometimes is frustrating when it comes to working with Filipino VAs. Well, we've got here good points, great points. Filipinos are helpful, industrious, uncomplaining, eager. They're also very much skilled in a lot of IT skills and platforms out there. English is, for the most part, their second language. Some of them might be their kind of first language as well. But even as a second language, they are generally easy to communicate with, not just with their English skill, but also their personality. They're very helpful and friendly. They're competent and easy to train. And for almost everyone in the room, really the main reason why they would hire a Filipino VA is that they're very easy on the budget. So they make a popular choice for a lot of business owners out there. I know there's a but here somewhere. Okay, so however, Filipinos do have trouble asserting themselves, admitting they're overworked, saying no, asking for help, terrified of mistakes, displeasing their boss. So there's a lot of things that work when it comes to Filipino VAs. However, culturally and the way they approach maybe work ethics and professionalism, there's a huge difference between how you would normally find people's work attitudes are here in the UK versus the Philippines. So that can present a bit of a headache for a lot of business owners who don't understand that these are cultural programmings that Filipinos have. So Filipinos, for this reason, they do tend to disappear when they've had enough and they don't know how to communicate this back to their bosses. Okay, again, this isn't something that you can fix. This isn't something that you can kind of not so much manipulate, but maybe retrain or unlearn for the Filipinos. This is something that's cultural. So we're not here to try and fix this and try to reprogram them, but we're here to help you manage and work with what comes with the Filipino VA. First thing that is really helpful for business owners to do is to manage their expectations of what VAs can and cannot do. Okay. So first thing is the VA cannot replace you. Okay. You're the business owner, you're the property investor, or whatever business you're in. The VA is brought in to your company to execute tasks, not to replace you as a business owner. The VA cannot do everything. I'd see it time and time and time again. Um, Clients come to me with a list of 20 or so task lists that they'd like to delegate to a VA. Even if the VA can do all of them, it's still not the best idea to get the VA to do everything for you in business. And the third is really quite important, but I still see this happening. The VA cannot make decisions for you. I've seen it time and time again where property investors would delegate tasks that really should only be looked after by the investor and the business owner because it involves making judgment calls. VAs should not do that for you for very clear reasons. They don't have property education. So they cannot replace you as an investor. They will not sound like an investor over the phone. So it's all well and good to give them telephony tasks where they qualify leads, but that is a completely different goal to delegating a telephone task to a VA where they are the ones negotiating with the vendor. Okay. You will lose the deal if you delegate this task to a VA. And finally, the VA will need your time and supervision. There's much we can do about how we will reduce this so that you are not managing your VA, right? So later on, we'll show you how what systems you can create in place so that it will um, minimize the time that you will need to spend supervising and training your VA. So here we are, best practices for working with Filipino VAs. We've got four philosophies that we like to abide by. The number one is that we need to have systemization in our business. We need to think about scalability. And the third best practice is that we need to distinguish which are the VA-able tasks. And then the fourth best practice is that we don't go crazy. Um, for this reason, if you look at these points here, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's a simple counting exercise to know how VA ready your business is. Have you got systems in place? Do you know how to make it scalable for your business once your VA is in? Can you distinguish which are VA-able tasks and which are tasks that you should not delegate to your VA? And then the fourth, it's hard to quantify this at face value, but we can dig into it later. It's not to go crazy when it comes to working with your VA. So just having one of them ready in your business is it would mean that you already differentiate yourself from a lot of property investors out there and business owners who work with VAs. I'd always start, if it's just one of them that you will start with, then I'll go with VA-able tasks, just to be able to distinguish which are VA-able tasks and which aren't. Systemization, it's a lot of commitment and investment and effort on the part of the business owner. But what we can show you is that we have a 5-step roadmap that will make systemization as simple as possible for your business. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What we'll do next is we'll break it down, each of these best practices, to see where we can help your business best. Okay. So systemization sounds like a scary word. It's scary because it sounds very technical. It sounds very expensive, and it sounds a little bit out of reach for a lot of business owners out there. But you can think of systemization as having a working routine in your business. That's really all it is. Um, because the whole point of having systems in your business is so that you don't have to be doing all the work yourself. And this isn't a case of the VA just replacing you, because then you've not really solved the problem of the business not working unless someone is there to do the work. Okay. The concept of systemization is that it's the systems who are doing the work, and it's the people who are operating the systems. It's encapsulated best by this quote here: the systems do the work, employees operate the systems, which means that your business should be systems dependent, and very, very crucial here for working with VAs. This means that your business should not be VA dependent. It means that you as a business owner should not be VA dependent. I see it time and time again where business owners hire VAs and think that they can now put their feet up. The VA is in the room, happy days, they will look after everything. And they get a shock when they realize that, in fact, the VA is likely going to be twiddling their thumbs until they get involved, because the VA will be waiting for instructions. The VA will be waiting for you to show them how things work in your business, and you haven't got templates, you haven't got manuals, you've got nothing really. And so this is when, for a business owner, it becomes like a really expensive exercise. They're paying their VA month after month, the VA salary. But because their business wasn't ready to work with the VA, it's I wouldn't say it's a waste of money, but it's definitely a very expensive exercise. Okay. Um, it's an expensive exercise when you think of VAs as the ones who are providing the solutions. When really you are the business owner, you provide the solutions. It's always the case. But you forget that because people tell you should hire a VA and give everything to the VA. It's as simple as when it's not so. The reality it isn't. So VAs are never the solutions. You as the business owner, you provide the solutions, and that solution should be the system, so that when you hire the VA is simply going to operate on the solution. This means that there is minimal downtime for onboarding, minimal downtime for training the VA. I really love this concept. For me, this is number one. Okay, have systems in place, scale with systems, not people. Solutions are the systems that you have in place for your business and not the VAs. Okay, second best practice for working with Filipino VAs is scalability. What does this mean? It's related to the concept of systemization. This means that we don't want to be highly super dependent on that one VA, that one fantastic, indispensable VA. Okay. He or she is so good, you can't imagine your business without this person. That alone should make you really, really scared as a business owner. You do not want that to happen. You do not want to have that one VA who, in all, you know, reality really is impossible to depend on because they're human, they can get sick, they can make life choices that will mean that they will no longer be working for you, or for a hundred reasons out there they can no longer work for you. Then what happens to your business? That's really a good question that you should be thinking of before you find a VA. I get it's understandable when business owners come to me and they want only the best VA out there. I understand that because they want a VA who's competent. They want a VA who's worth the money that they're going to be paying the VA for. That's all well and good, but the underlying philosophy should always be that you are relying on the systems, not the VA. So finding a very competent VA is a good thing to think about. But really, what you should be thinking about is that you've got a really good systems in place beforehand. So that even if you just have a mildly competent VA out there, that VA should really still be performing almost as good as the highly competent VA. But in this instance, you're no longer thinking of this VA as being indispensable. Okay. The other reason why you should not think of your VA as indispensable is because you want to allow your business to grow with the people that you bring into your business with your team. And you can't do this if the VA is so indispensable that the VA remains in that role for the duration of your business. That means there's no room to elevate that VA into a higher position and bring in other people under them. Um, you can't do this because the minute that you that you elevate the position of an indispensable VA, that VA will still need to do the tasks instead of training the people under her to then uh, do the tasks for her so that her role becomes a manager. You can't do this if that VA is indispensable in carrying out the tasks. So this should be relatively simple enough to understand. Um, the third philosophy that this is the easiest actually to start with. It's not the top philosophy out there, but this is the easiest to execute. And this is to distinguish, to have the skill and understanding to distinguish which is a VA-able task and which isn't. And the thing that this needs in terms of understanding from a business owner is that you need to understand the the processes in your business, okay? And you can't do this until you actually do number one, which is systemization. Because systemization is about working out what is a workable routine for your business. So you need to be looking at and inspecting your business processes. So best practice number three involves you understanding what are the processes in your business so that you can see in this process, there's stage one, two, three, four, five, however many stages there are to carry out this task. You can see who's supposed to be doing what. And that's the whole point of being able to distinguish which ones are viable tasks and which ones aren't. So for you to understand which one is a viable task, then you can ask yourself these questions. Okay, is it checklist based? That is to say, can the VA review her work using a simple checklist? Is it a yes or a no? Let's say you're looking for plots of land that you can develop on Nimbus. Okay, the VA can carry that out, the first stage selection, using a checklist. Is it in a flood zone? Is it not in a flood zone? Is it in the local council's housing allocation? Is it not? Okay, so that's what a checklist means. It's a yes or no situation. Okay. Second question is, can it be explained using step-by-step instructions? That is to say, can you enumerate and detail each and every step? Step one, log into Nimbus. Step two, click on these buttons. If you can't, if it's all in your head and there's no way for you to translate it, then start asking yourself if it's really something that you can delegate to the VA. The third question is, can you generate templates out of these tasks that you want to delegate to a VA? What do I mean by that? Let's say responding to frequently asked questions from inbound communication channels, whether that's Facebook messages or LinkedIn or WhatsApp. If you can create templates, then I would say generally that would be a VA-able task. Of course, you can make an allowance for when the VA needs to forward some of the more difficult questions to you. That's all well and good. That means it's not really a frequently asked question. It's kind of a specialist question, in which case the VA can have a template to respond to these questions to say, I'm not the best person to give you the correct answer for this. Let me check with my supervisor and get back to you. And then maybe you can reply yourself directly to that question that is not an FAQ question. And finally, is it low value, repetitive, and time consuming? So this is more the quality of the task itself um, rather than the I would say the mechanics of the task itself. Okay, so we don't want to be using up our time to do a task that is low value. What do I mean by low value? You could think of it as how much will I be paid on an hourly rate to carry out this task versus if I did another task. That's one way of considering what a low value task is. Another question that you can ask for a low value task would be, what would be the consequences of me carrying out this task versus if I spent my time doing something else. Okay. Repetitive is all about, these other questions here. Is it checklist based? Can it be done by step instructions and templates? That all defines what being when tasks are being repetitive. Time consuming is very simple to understand. Let's say scouring through sites on Rightmove, unless you enjoy, window shopping and Rightmove. Some people do actually, but for you, if it's time consuming, if it takes you 2 hours just doing the first stage site selection on Rightmove, then maybe you can hand this over to a VA. Then later on, you can do much more tasks. Okay. So when is it not a VA-able task? The opposite of checklist based would be when it needs your judgment call, when it needs an analysis. Okay. When you can no longer describe it in a step-by-step instruction, when it needs a little bit of nuance, let's say building a rapport with a distressed vendor. You can describe it in step by steps, but it's hard to create instructions without just um, without a knowing the creative solutions that you probably can offer to the vendor. Okay, it's not enough that the VA understands the definitions of strategies like rent to rent, HMO, or C2R. They can repeat this back to you, but it doesn't mean that they understand it. So if it's too nuanced, it's probably best if you take over that task yourself. Right. So just being able to distinguish a a VA-able task from a non-VA-able task. If you start with that, your business will be in a much better position than others who will just, without discrimination, hand over everything to the VA. Okay. There's also another distinction that you need to consider. It's whether the task will be for a specialist VA and whether it's best for a generalist VA. Bookkeeping is a good example. Most generalist VAs should be able to to take over some basic bookkeeping tasks like creating invoices, downloading reports, sending reminders for payments, that sort of thing. Okay. But once you get into, let's say, looking more into the financials of the business, looking at turnovers, thinking about maybe tax calculations, I will, I would not recommend using a generalist VA to then look after these specialist bookkeeping tasks. The same goes with social media and maybe digital marketing. Some of these tasks can be looked after by a generalist VA, but again, I would always recommend that you look at your business processes so that you can see what is it that you're wanting to happen and when should you start hiring a generalist VA and when should you start looking at delegating to specialist VAs and adding them to your team. If your business is not ready to hire multiple specialist VAs, then this is again will help you as a business owner to make that decision intelligently. That you can simply hire one generalist VA that works with you on a month to month basis, and maybe later on have, or you can hire ad hoc or freelance specialist VAs for one off tasks in your business. Okay, here we go. Best practice number 4, just don't go crazy. A surefire way of the VA going AWOL, absent without leave, on you is when you think of them as robots. And this is a common misconception. VAs are cheap, VAs are everywhere. So you think that, it's going to be a transactional relationship. VA do this, VA do that, you're done with that, go on to this next task. And here's 10 other things that I'd like for you to do. Okay. So good to remember, VAs cannot do everything in your business. And you don't have to outsource and delegate everything. You likely have a wish list of 20 or 100 tasks even. Start with 2, start with 4, start with 5. Focus on, and these are task groups, these are not individual tasks, okay? Focus on a maximum of 3 to 4 task groups. 1 to 2 is my preference. What do I mean by task groups? Let's say data scraping on Nimbus. That's one task group, okay? Now that might involve 10, 20 tasks underneath. That's fine, but it's one task group, okay? You are allowing your VA to find a rhythm in carrying out that one task group. You're also allowing yourself as a business owner to find a focus, to concentrate and spend your resources on not just time but also money. Okay, it also helps you to understand really what's going to help your business move towards the direction of where you want it to be in 6 months' time, 12 months' time. Okay, you can't do this. You and your VA will not be able to do this if they're meant to look after everything in your business. Okay, so in summary, Filipinos are great options for business owners and property investors to delegate tasks to. I'm just reading this out loud. So they can allocate precious time to more high value tasks. However, it is important for business owners to remember to scale their business with systems and not have unrealistic expectations of Filipino virtual assistants. And really, this is what I want to focus on because the expectations that most business owners and property investors have when it comes to or the concept of working with Filipino VAs are frankly quite unrealistic. So how can we help business owners like yourselves? We have a 5-step roadmap for delegation success. All right, I'll show you how this works later on. We can help you get your business VA ready before you even work with the VA. And we make it super easy to find, hire, and work with Filipino VAs. The roadmap for success is a step-by-step guideline to help you create a workable system in your business for you and your Filipino VA, so that when it's time, when you feel you're ready, when you hire a Filipino VA in, and you're expecting to spend and hundreds of pounds for this VA, that you're certain and confident that this VA will be able to operate because you've already laid out the systems for this VA. Also, with the roadmap, what we're really doing here is we're taking out the confusion, the mystery, and the intimidation. Lots of people hear the word systems and they kind of think, ooh, I'm not so sure I can do that yet. I'm only a small business. I don't really have the resources to create systems for my business. I think that's only like if you're a corporation. That's really so far from the truth. You might be a small business, but you don't have to think like a small business. You can, it is within your intelligence and capacity and resources to create workable systems for your business, wherever it is right now. Okay. And also, it's not very expensive to do. We like to think of using free and available tools out there to create systems and not have to sign up to lots of fancy softwares and platforms out there. And then finally, what I like best about the roadmap is that we're going to give you actionable routines in blocks, 5-step blocks, so that you can tackle it one at a time. Okay. And our goal is that we want your business to look so efficient and so systemized that working with the Filipino VA will help make will help your business run like clockwork. That's really what the goal of having systems is. It's okay. People like to think that with systems you can just nap for the rest of the day and sleep. Yes, we like to think that that's what can happen. But the truth is, you will still need to be involved, but now in a state of ownership rather than a state of panic and um, I would say not so happy as a business owner. Right. So second is that we help you get your business VA ready. This is very for us. This is very clear as a goal. We see time and time again business owners hiring VAs because they're so easy to find. They're everywhere, especially if you're looking for admin generalist VAs. And then 3 6 months down the line, the business owner is still paying the salary for the VA, but they're nowhere near the the performance that really they'd like their business to be at because they didn't spend that commitment at the start to get their VA ready beforehand. Okay. How do we get this? How do we help you get your business ready? We have a 6 point SOP creation. You'll get the download to this. I'll show you when and how. This should save you time and expense, spending months training VAs. This will help you create easy to follow VA manuals and SOPs, which stands for Standard Operating Procedures. I really like the word standard because it means that this should be the default. This should be so routine that the VA can message you in the morning. I'm logged in. I'm ready to work. You don't need to stop yourself and go, what should a VA be doing today, right? It's none of that. The VA is simply following a routine. It's an SOP. It's standard operating procedure. Okay, yes, getting your business VA ready. We help you create an onboarding plan to get your VA off to a flying start, helping you save money, time, and energy. And finally, we help you create well defined goals in your business. Okay, we help you create well defined goals and roles in the business so that your VA understands perfectly what his or her role is in the business, and then have a bit of um, pride and accountability for their contribution to the business. Okay, this will help your VA feel part of your team. Why? Because at the very start, you're able to communicate to your VA why you're hiring them, what their what your goal is for them being part of your team, and for the VA, this helps them give clarity, and with clarity just comes with more action with intention. Finally, number three, we also help business owners find, hire, and work with Filipino VAs. I myself, I'm from the Philippines, so it's not just the access to a pool of talented Filipinos, but it's also understanding and communicating with Filipino VAs in a way that um, gives it that extra benefit and value to my clients. They can come to me when they need help understanding how to work with their Filipino VAs. But not just that, the VAs themselves can approach me as they find it easier to approach a Filipino to talk about business, talk about their work, to talk about communication and their relationship with their clients or their clients as well. We are not a recruitment company. I'd like to clarify that. We're not here to give you hundreds of CVs to go through so that you can interview them. Um, if you choose to do this, you can find many other platforms out there wherein you can make the selection yourself. That's absolutely fine. We're not here to insist you only hire our VAs. Where we know for sure where we help our clients best is not the finding of the VA, it's the working with the VA that we that is most lacking out there. Okay, because you can find a VA yourself easily. You can just go on LinkedIn. They're everywhere. You might already have been approached by 20 of them with direct messages. Okay, on Facebook, they're also on Facebook, and there's many other platforms and agencies out there that can help you find Filipino VAs. But most of them, well, I would say all of them, will then leave you with a VA after you hired the VA. But that's where we are different. We don't just find a VA and leave the VA with you. What we're here to do is, number one, get your business ready before you even hire the VA. And then number two, once you're ready to work with the VA, we have VAs ready to work for you. So you don't have to go through interviews. You simply trust us in that we've already trained, vetted, and um, uh, what's this? Essentially made sure that the VAs will be ready to work for you. Okay. So that saves you time and money to go through, I don't know, however many CVs out there. And third is, of course, because we've helped your business to be ready before hiring a VA, the third aspect is that now we're making it easy for you to work with the VA that we've found for you. If you choose to find a VA somewhere else, that's also fine. You don't have to use us to find a VA for you. You may already be working with an existing VA, or someone's passed on a VA for you, or you're VA sharing with somebody else. That's also absolutely fine. That's why our benefit is still in the third part, which is now that you have your VA, whether we found that for you or not, how do you work with that VA? Because that's when the actual um, um, work begins. It's not enough that you found a VA and this VA is so skilled, this VA is so competent. You've heard glowing reviews from the previous client, but you don't know how this client worked. This VA might come with all the skills ready to perform and carry out tasks for you in your business. But if you don't know how to work with this VA, if you yourself you haven't got systems for this VA to perform their tasks, then you've discounted every single talent this VA has come with because your VA was not ready to accommodate for this VA's skills and talents. Okay. And that's a waste. Honestly, it's a waste for the VA's skills. It's a waste for you and your time and the money that you spend paying for the VA salary. It's a waste for everybody. So save yourself from money, time, stress, and energy by having systems in place. That's an acronym, by the way. It's supposed to be. But anyway, so here we go. This is what I promised. I'm gonna be sending this 3-pack complete Filipino VA systems so that you can do this yourself. It's a printable. The second pack is a printable. The onboarding template, it's also a printable, but if you'd like to kind of use it as a guideline instead, that's also fine. You can just kind of transpose it on Google Docs or something like that. The roadmap itself is a visual roadmap so that you can see what you're supposed to be doing. However, if you'd like guidance and direct help in creating the systems before you hire a VA, then we're offering this as a service as well. This is a monthly subscription until you're ready to work with a VA. Once you're ready to work with a VA, whether you choose to stay and then hire a VA, that's one option for you. The subscription then becomes free because you're now paying for the VA salary. So for our VA clients, the platform becomes free. For those who's working with a VA, they found somewhere else, you can choose to remain and keep using the systems, or you can perhaps export it and terminate the contract. That's also absolutely fine. But once you've downloaded the contract, you can't, sorry, not the contract, the systems, you can't edit that because it's a download, it's not editable. So if you choose to come back again because you want to review your systems, we'll keep it for you. We'll never delete it so that if you want to renew your subscription and start again, that's also absolutely fine. We are offering this. The first month you can use for free. There's a trial period of 14 days. You can see how the platform itself works. You can see all of the actionable blocks of tasks that you can begin with, we can recommend which would be your priority, but would always start with block one. But you can choose to work on other blocks if you feel like your business probably needs that. Um, and the cost of this is £45 plus VAT a month. Um, Again, we like to really reiterate this. Don't hire VA straight away, not unless you know for absolutely sure that you've got the systems in place, that your business is ready to work with a VA, that you're not going to spend 1 week, 2 weeks, 2 months training the VAs, and at the end of it all, you're still nowhere closer to really having a business that runs without you, VAs that run almost without you. I'm not going to say that you'll never need to speak to your VA again. That's completely untrue. Remember our philosophy, there's always VA-able tasks and non-VA-able tasks. Tasks you should never delegate to VA. So you'll still need to be involved, but it's knowing which tasks are VA-able and which ones you should still look after yourself, right? So we're not saying you're now able to just take a permanent vacation in the Bahamas. That's all well and good, but you should still have some ownership and control with the day-to-day running of your business. So the whole point of hiring VAs, again, I'm just repeating myself, is not that you can be replaced. I know that's like a very catchy phrase out there, replace yourself. But really, you're wanting to elevate yourself in the business. You're no longer the one doing the task. Your VA is. Okay. So it is £45 a month, or the choice is for you to straight away hire VAs from someone. That's not us because we like to work with people who are ready to work with virtual assistants in their business. And for us, the cost of £45 a month is not really a cost, but more like saving yourself from the expense of paying hundreds of pounds per month for a VA salary, um, where you're not ready. You'll be spending weeks and months training VAs and onboarding them. And at the end of it, you'll still have no rhythm and routine. For those of you who might ask, then what happens? You're ready to work with the VA. How much will the VA cost? This is for a generalist VA salary. If your VA requirements will not be generalist but specialists, like maybe digital marketing, um, podcast management, and other VA tasks, please approach me. I will need to discuss with you exactly how much it's going to cost, because that would depend on the VA's skill set and hourly rate. For a generalist VA, this is what you're looking at. And the reason why we like for you to be ready beforehand with a systems, with workflows, is because I see it time and time again. People um, hire VAs that are determined by their budget rather than what their business needs. So they think I can only afford 2 hours a day, so this is what I'm going to work with. Yes, that is a consideration, but really you should be looking at what your business needs, because maybe you don't need 2 hours a day. Maybe you only need 2 hours a week, but you won't know that until you've actually worked on your business, find out what it is that your business needs, what is it that you can delegate for the time being to help you move your your goal marker forward. Okay, so just indiscriminately thinking you need 2 hours a day, you need 4 hours, you need, you know, a full-time V without looking at your business is again an opportunity for you to spend money unnecessarily in your business. So this is our whole point. We make VAs work for you. That is the presentation. I'll stop sharing my screen and look at some, let me see, questions. Okay, do we have questions in the room? No, just a bit of hi, hello. I would love to hear from people in the room what their questions are, what their experiences are of working with virtual assistants. Was this what you were expecting? Because in a way, what I'm actually saying is stop, you know, slow down, don't hire a VA, just not yet. Make sure your business is ready first. Yeah, would love to hear from the audience, from the people in the room, you know, what your questions are, what your experiences are. Now's your opportunity to really ask me in terms of working with Filipino VAs. Who here, sorry, Nikki, did you?
Well, I was just interested to sort of try and grasp a level of sort of property. I mean, what I kind of need is just a general admin, really. So I'm not getting bogged down with it, and I can free up my time to find deals and money. So I'm just wondering, is there a certain level that you find property investors come to you that they're at in their investment career that would actually, because I feel like, am I doing it too early? And probably I should just, you know, keep mustering along.
That's a really good question, because in a way, you know, you're wondering when should you hire a VA,
Yeah.
right? I can give you some guidelines, some questions that you can ask yourself, but I can't really answer that for you. I would say, you know, what you can do is kind of sit down and map out what do you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And the other aspect is, in an ideal world, how would your business look like running, you know, the way you want it to run? And then you might start creating process maps and workflows, and you can do this with a simple pen and paper. Again, we would always recommend that clients start with the most inexpensive solution out there, so pen and paper, rather than signing up to some fancy workflow software. And just draw it, write it down. What do you do, right?
Yeah.
And then you can see, you know, with your 8 hours, with your 10 hours or 12 hours that you spend on the day, what is it being allocated to? And you can start thinking, well, do I need to still keep doing this? Or uh, do I have the resources to then start bringing in a VA? And maybe you can decide for your business. I know it's not very clear, but this is why I like to think how we help our clients is that we don't do it for our clients. Instead, we're kind of doing it with the clients rather than for the clients, because we cannot make the decision for you, but we'll do it with you to create these process maps, to create these SOPs to get your business really ready. But I think concretely for your own experience, perhaps there's three questions that you can ask yourself, which is, do I hate doing it? Do I know how to do it? And should I be doing it?
Yeah.
So these things, these are tasks that maybe you do love doing it. It's fun to kind of window shop on Rightmove, and it's fun to look at. I don't know if it's fun, but maybe let's say you're still looking at all of the tenant applications in there, but of that entire task group of, let's say, looking at tenant applications, if you map it out, step one, step two, step three, could there be a few steps that you don't have to look after yourself? And then you can come in and look at, maybe out of the 10 steps, you look at doing only 2 or 3 steps. And the first 7 steps can be delegated to a VA.
Yeah.
So those would be the 3 questions.
Okay.
On a not VA related note specifically, but a group of questions that you can also ask yourself is called the 4D. Can you defer it? This task. It means maybe you don't need to do it today. Maybe you don't need at this point to hire a bookkeeping VA because I don't know, it's you only have, let's say, 5 or 10 clients, or you've already got, let's say, a recurring payment software that does it for you. So that's D for defer. You don't really need to do it yet. And then the second would be to dump it. Okay. Is this task unnecessary for your business? Do you really need a podcast? Do you really need to post daily on Instagram? Maybe your business doesn't need it yet. So maybe you should be dumping it. So that's a second D. The third D would be, well, I guess you'll do it. So if you can't defer it, you can't dump it. It's time for you to do it. So that's the third D. And the fourth D would be to then think about delegating it. So in a way, I would start still looking at doing it yourself so that you understand all the processes that are involved. Then you can map it out. Then you can select of the 10 steps that this task group requires, which are the ones that I'd like to keep doing myself, and which are the ones I can then just delegate.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's kind of inspecting your business. Does that help, Nikki?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely does. And a second question as well, you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that sometimes just it's a cultural thing that VAs can disappear. If we'd sort of gone through the process and you'd hired the VA for us and we'd done all the systems and got them all in place, do you then sort of help us find another, or do you help us resolve the situation? What happens then?
Okay. There are things that we cannot control because VAs are humans. They're not pieces of software and robots. So this is why we encourage clients to have dependable systems rather than a VA that they think they can rely on forever.
Yeah.
If it does happen that the VA that we hired for you no longer either wants to work for you or can work for you, maybe they want to go back to school, maybe they're pregnant, they're starting a family for whatever reason, if it's going to be a permanent decision, then we'll just simply find you a new VA to work with. For our current pool of VAs, I'm sure it won't take us more than 2 to 3 days to get you another one started and going. But now you have the confidence of knowing that you will not need to spend a new or a fresh 1 more month or 2 more months getting this.
Oh, your sound's gone.
With a philosophy that VAs should be able to fire your VA tomorrow if you wanted to, or if you had to, because you didn't rely on that VA. If it's a temporary situation where, let's say, there's a typhoon in the Philippines, or the VA's gone ill, in this instance, we can typically, the arrangement would be that the VA will compensate for the lost hours in a separate day. This is the easiest to coordinate with the client. But if it's something wherein you definitely need a VA to operate every single day. Let's say you're running an Airbnb or you're running a coaching business, and there's always going to be messages, and it's not something that you can just look after when your VA is off sick. Then as soon as you can, please let us know so that we can plug in a temp VA for you.
Yeah,
And
sure.
hopefully it will be tasks where it should be simple enough for the VA to get up and running, especially if these are FAQs or kind of routine tasks. But I would always recommend that you agree and coordinate with the VA when they can compensate for the hours rather than bring in someone who's going to be half the speed of,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
your other VA.
Cool. And also, sorry, I've got 25 other questions. Just regarding finding a VA at the end of the time when we've systemized everything, did I miss the point? Is there a finder's fee for that for you guys?
There's no finder's fee. There's no admin setup fee. The only, in a way, you could think of uh, pre-VA fee is the systems made simple monthly fee. So think of it as um, you're you're almost paying uh, in a way not the full VA fee, but kind of like a portion, just so you can get your business ready. You don't have to get everything in your business ready. You only need to get that one task group that you want to delegate to a VA ready.
Yeah.
So if you're only needing a VA to be your social media manager, then create systems just for that task group, just for that VA, so that you can bring you it's in place of you training the VA. It's in place of you discovering what you can delegate to the VA while the VA is in the room. Is you get your business ready at a cost of £45 a month,
Yeah.
and we'll give it uh, to you with a 14-day trial period. So you have a head start, 14 days. See how it works. I'm there always, even after the trial period, of course. I'm always there to be with you to create the systems rather than just kind of leave you to it.
Okay. Cool.
I've got questions here, direct messages. I'll read out the question, but not say who it's from. Designing and managing daily uploads to generate potential leads. Is the content also written by VAs? Okay, daily uploads. Is it okay if maybe I ask what do you mean by uploads? Is this social media posts? You happy for me to mention your name? Social media posts. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen. I know we're 12, so it's 2 minutes past 12, so it's gone past the hour mark. If you need to go, feel free. If you'd like to stay, I'll show you our systems that we use for social media VAs that look after the content, and that this can be done by a creative generalist VA. So this doesn't have to be a specialist VA. You can choose to work with a specialist social media VA if you wanted to, but a generalist VA who's got creative skills using Canva, using Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, it should be doable by this kind of generalist VA. I'll just show you. Um, just give me a second. Share my screen. This is a template that you can utilize. Okay. So what we've got here is a Kanban board. So it reads from left to right. And Kanban boards are great for project management where you can group task categories. And in this instance, we've got here a pile, like a stack of prompt task groups. So these are prompt questions that clients can open and go through and check with them themselves, what do I want to talk about today? Oh, I've run out of ideas. What can I talk about my business? Or what, what else can I be making noise out there? So these are prompt questions for the client, because the intention is that you provide the raw content. Let's say it's a selfie video that can be once a month, once a week, it's up to you. I create for my own VA, I record in one afternoon 3 or 4 selfie videos, and then the VA crunches it for me, creates kind of a nice reel or carousel on for Instagram or Facebook. And then, so I provided the raw content. The VA then transforms it into a postable file, and then the VA then creates and submits a content. Let's say FB reel number 1, FB reel number 2. Let's say I don't like number 2, I like number 1. So I approve it by moving it towards this file, which is client selection. And then the client can tell me, either the client schedules it himself, or maybe the VA can schedule it for me. Again, because I have a routine, the VA and I have an understanding of when that's supposed to be posted, then the VA doesn't have to always check with me and need my approval because it's a routine. When things are posted, then it can go here. If I can show you as well an example of what one of my VAs are doing for her client. So you can see here, it's using free software. Really, this is Google Sheets. Okay, this isn't some fancy scheduling software out there. All she's doing is extracting from the client's raw submission, creating waterfall content, and within a week, you've got enough to post daily for the following week. And you've only submitted one raw content for that week. Whether you record a 1-minute video or a 10-minute video, there's generally enough content to create extract waterfall content for daily posting. Does this help? I want to get some feedback. Was it Ray who was I don't know. I hope that helps. Sorry, I should stop sharing my screen really. Yes, it helps. Thank you so much. We've got maybe, yes. Okay, someone's asking about the download guides. I'll send this as a download link along with the replay of this session. And I think we've run out of time, so I would like to thank everyone who's joined me in the room. If there are no more questions, then I won't keep you for longer. Expect the recording to be ready by early this evening. I'll send it along with the download links as well. So thank you everyone for joining, and I hope that you've learned some helpful tips here that will help you with your business. Thank you so much. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.